In the Quran, you will often come across two silent letters standing right next to each other. In Tajweed, this is called Iltiqa as-Sakinayn, meaning the meeting of two sakins. A sakin letter is simply a letter that carries no vowel, no haraka. It is quiet, at rest. And in Arabic, two of these quiet letters are not allowed to sit next to each other while you are reciting. When it happens, something has to give. In this video, we'll look at exactly when this happens, why it happens, and how the Quran resolves it every single time. Now, this meeting of two sakins can happen in two ways: inside a single word or across two separate words. Inside one word, it's actually not a problem at all. You'll see it in words like at-tamma or al-haqqa, where a mad letter is followed immediately by a shadda. Because the shadda letter is voiced right after, there's no real obstacle in pronunciation, and the recitation carries on smoothly. So we can set that case aside. It's the second situation that actually needs solving. The real challenge happens when the first sakin ends one word and the second sakin begins the very next word. And this only becomes an issue when you're reciting continuously, what we call wasl, connecting one word straight into the next without stopping. If you pause between the two words, there's no meeting at all and nothing to resolve. But in continuous recitation, Arabic simply does not allow two sakins to collide. So the Quran resolves this in one of two ways, depending on what that first sakin actually is. The first situation is when that first sakin is a letter of mad, that is alif, waw or ya, acting as a long vowel. When one of these mad letters is followed immediately by a sakin letter at the start of the next word, its elongation is dropped. The letter stays written in the mushaf, but in pronunciation we do not stretch it. We move straight into the next letter, no pause, no elongation. Let's look at the most familiar example of all, Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim from Surah Al-Fatihah. The word Ihdina ends with a long alif, a mad letter, sakin by nature. The next word, as-Sirat, begins with the hamzatul wasl of al, the definite article. Because sad is a sun letter, the lam of al fully assimilates into it, producing a shadda on the sad. So the moment we connect the two words in recitation, the hamzatul wasl disappears and we're left with the alif of ihdina running straight into that shadda, sakin meeting sakin. To resolve this, the alif's elongation is dropped entirely. We don't say ihdina as-sirat with a long stretch, we say ihdina as-sirat, moving briskly from the short vowel straight into the shadda. Here's a second example. وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ from Surah Ar-Rahman. Aqimu ends in a waw of mad. The next word, al-wazn, begins with a waw, a moon letter this time. So there's no assimilation, but the lam of al is still sakin. Once again, mad letter meets sakin letter. And once again, the solution is the same. Drop the elongation. We recite it as Aqimul wazna, flowing directly from the short oo sound into the lam without stretching the waw at all. And one more, a phrase you'll meet again and again throughout the Quran. Fil ard. Fi ends with a ya of mad. Al-ard begins with the lam of the definite article, sakin, since hamza here is a moon letter. Same pattern, same solution. The ya's elongation disappears and we move straight into the lam, fil ard, never fil ard. Now the second situation, when that first sakin isn't a mad letter at all, but a noon sakin in the shape of tanween. The noon sound you hear at the end of indefinite words, like a double kasrah or double damma. When this Tanween Noon runs straight into another sakin letter at the start of the next word, we can't simply drop it. A noon has to be voiced with some kind of vowel. So instead, it's given a kasrah. That little noon sound becomes ni. just enough of a vowel to separate the two sakins and let the recitation continue smoothly. Take this example from Surah Al-Kahf. قرية استطعما. قرية ends in Tanween, Kasratayn, giving that noon sound which is sakin. Istat'ama begins with a hamzat ul-wasl which drops away in continuous recitation, exposing a sakin seen right underneath it. Sakin noon meeting sakin seen, not allowed. So the Tanween's noon takes a kasrah. قرية استطعما, gliding smoothly from one word into the next. And here's another from Surah Al-Humazah. لمزة الذي جمع. لمزة ends in Tanween. The next word, الذي, has a mushaddad lam. Once the hamzatul wasl drops in continuous recitation, two sakins come together. The noon sakin of the Tanween and the lam sakin, the first half of that shadda. So the noon is given a kasrah and we recite لمذة الذي, smooth and connected. So, to bring it all together, Iltiqa as-Sakinayn, the meeting of two sakins, is something you'll come across constantly in the Quran. Inside a single word, it's harmless and needs no fixing. But between two words, in continuous recitation, Arabic never allows two sakins to collide, and the Quran resolves it in exactly one of two ways. If the first sakin is a letter of mad, its elongation is dropped, and we move straight into the next letter as we saw in Ihdina as-Sirat, Aqimul Wazna, and Fil Ard. And if the first sakin is a noon in the shape of Tanween, it's given a kasrah, turning that noon sound into ni, just as we saw in قرية استطعما and لمزة الذي. Once you recognize these two patterns, you'll start noticing them everywhere in your recitation, and reciting them correctly will come naturally. If this video helped clarify Iltiqa as-Sakinayn for you, don't forget to like it and subscribe for more lessons on Tajweed. Insha'Allah, I'll see you in the next one.